What is up, y'all? It's your boy QuaMonstarG, and welcome to this new show that I'm doing over on the MD channel. It is called Q's tentatively titled video games show. I couldn't come up with anything cooler or lamer, I suppose would be no way to put it. But yeah, this is just basically the show where I interview other gamers and the sphere, and basically, I get to know them, you get to know them, we all get to know them, and hopefully we're all better off for it. Today, on the maiden voyage, I don't have my sea captain's hat on, but this is the maiden's voyage, and my first incredible guest is a woman, and from what I've seen, and in my opinion, is constantly grinding, constantly putting out great content and live streams frequently and awesomely, just being supportive of other creatives and just going hard in the paint with her own stuff. The one, the only, Glimmering Harpy, Raya. Woo!
Woo! Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so honored.
No problem. You've been a long time supporter of the channel in general, and your content is dope and everything. And I just want to start it off. What is your origin story? How did you get into the weeds of the video games, if you will? Let the good people know.
Yeah, so as far as like what struck my interest with video games, I started, getting heavier exposure during like the PS1 era and with my Game Boy Color. So very late into the 90s, maybe like, 97 onward, as at the earliest, as far as I can remember. And I was maybe like, 5 or 6 at the time. So I didn't really grow up too much with retro games necessarily. Well, now PS1's considered retro, but yeah, that would be as retro as my earliest exposures got. And a lot of my access came from either like family members who, if I didn't have it, at the time I didn't have a Nintendo 64, so I'd go to my cousin's house who had a Nintendo 64, and I'd go play like GoldenEye, Mario 64, or Super Mario Bros. 64, and Ocarina of Time, for example. So I'd go and experience those games. Oh, and Yoshi's Story, like at their house. But then PS1 games, I would have like action platformers, 3D platformers like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro. That was kind of like the extent of the games that our mom would buy for us, pretty much. A lot of very like family-friendly titles there. And they would be few and far between. So another reason I didn't really get that much exposure with a whole lot of gaming consoles when I was younger was because I grew up in a single mother household, so there was one income, and games were almost as expensive as they are these days, if not like if you account for inflation. Like back then in like 90s money, like paying $60 was like maybe like $80 to $100 in today's like market. So yeah, that was another reason why like I didn't really have that much access to a lot of like the hidden gems of those consoles back then. So now as an adult, fast forward, I'm like, yes, I can emulate everything. I have all this access now. The power is mine. So I'm using my platform on YouTube to not only play some like newer Nintendo titles that I love and have been looking forward to, but also trying to experience games that I just didn't have access to, like even like PS2, PS3 games, 360 games. Getting into college, I didn't have access to those consoles either. I was like in school and working, so no money for video games there either. So yes, I feel really fortunate that I finally have the platform and some more bandwidth, a little bit of bandwidth to be able to explore that library of content that I missed out on in my younger years.
Dope, because it's amazing that you're basically saying that you're making up for all the lost time, which is such a cool that's such a cool like journey and outlook, because I don't hear too many of that from other like people who are on YouTube and playing games. It's kind of like, oh, I played this as a kid and I want to revisit it, but you're just like, no, I never, some of the stuff I've never touched, but now now that I'm able to, I'm gonna just try everything, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, and I admire that, because I know you've recently been diving deep into some old school Sega Genesis games. Can you tell me a little bit about that? What got you in, like, for that particular run?
Yeah, so the Sega Genesis Mini 2 console came out, and that is basically a smaller, more portable, all-in-one console of about 70 titles. Some of them deep cuts from the Sega Genesis that I never even heard of. So a lot of them are like shooters, fighting games, beat 'em up games. 2D platformers. So I pretty much dove into that, and I felt like that would be a great thing to cover with my audience who either grew up playing these titles, because a lot of my audience are, retro gamers or arcade gamers, and then another part of them came from like the TV and film side of YouTube that I'm also part of. So
yes. Shout outs to Glimmering cast. Shout outs to the Glimmering cast and all of that stuff. She definitely gets down with, the overarching pop culture sphere.
Yes, those two circles overlap more than one would think. So I love being that sort of like axis where those 2 points connect. But yes, so I'm really fortunate I can like share this content with other folks who may not get exposed to it as much on other platforms. And yeah, that's kind of the catalyst, is that like, hey, I never tried this. Let's see how it goes. And then I've got some people in the audience guiding me along on some of the things that I can do better or discover in those games, which is really fun and interactive. And I love that part of it too, like how engaging, my first time experiencing these titles is for other people to watch.
That's so dope. So I'm really sucked into it now. So what are some of the games you like for the first time, like taking a bite out of that first exquisite cuisine? What was your first like, oh my god, what I missed out, I'm so glad I'm finally playing this game? Do you have any experiences like that?
Yes, oh my god, Symphony of the Night, Castlevania comes to mind. So my first time playing it was on the channel, and there were the first maybe 1 or 2 streams, I was getting so frustrated, but people in the chat who played this and like absolutely adore Castlevania, let alone Symphony of the Night, they were like, no, it's okay. Like everyone struggles when they first start, you're doing so well. Like, it's going to get easier as you continue to level up. And I'm just like, y'all don't know what you're talking about. I just suck at video games. Maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. But I pushed on because everyone just kept encouraging me and said, no, just keep going. So into like the 3rd, 4th, 5th playthrough, I'm like, this is one of the greatest games I've ever played in my life. So it was a complete 180 from where I started, because I just like stayed engaged with the audience who were encouraging me to keep doing it, to keep moving forward in this game, and me just learning bits and bits more about how best to navigate the huge map of the game, discover new areas, continue to grind. Like the more I explored, the easier the game got, because it felt like JRPG grinding, which it kind of is. It's like action, adventure, 2D platformer JRPG. So yeah, that's basically like kind of a fun story of a title that I didn't get exposure to growing up, and now as an adult, I've heard so many like wonderful stories from other people that I respect and admire in this space, who've played this game and absolutely adore it. And now like I'm red pilled on Symphony of the Night, basically.
Fact. I know I've personally never played Symphony of the Night, but that was one of the games where I was very much following everyone's, because at the time when I was, becoming of age, Symphony of the Night probably was out for about 5 years at that point. So everybody was raving about it. And actually one of my favorite streamers, Maximilian Dude, he was recently played it for the first time too. So I'm like, yeah, this game definitely lives up to the hype. So to hear you, give your firsthand experience and then how that changed you, that's like, man, that's awesome. And 2, that's like, man, I need to go ahead and touch Symphony of the Night real quick, see what experience for myself, because I'm so I know of the characters and everything. So it's like about time I experienced it. Like with Super Metroid, for me, I played that for the first time last year when I was going to visit my mother for Thanksgiving, and I'm like, yeah, this game lives up to the hype. So I definitely we're like Pacific Rim linked up with that. Something that I've noticed as well on your channel is that it's not just retro games. You delve into a lot of the modern games. I see that you're currently doing a Sonic Frontiers playthrough. And as well as the Dragon Quest. You just started that recently, no?
I started that today. But yes, to your point, Sonic Frontiers, that's another game where my audience is just like, just keep going. You're doing so well. So with these tougher games that I just feel very overwhelmed by, I can feel my cortisol levels, going up. My brain is just clenching and throbbing in my head, and I'm having a hard time controlling the presence of stress on my face and trying to stay positive for my audience. So I try to avoid those experiences. But when the audience is being so supportive and understanding, like, hey, this is her first time playing this, it's really frustrating, let's try to, give her support and encouragement. I love my audience for that, because they got me to play Sonic Frontiers 6 times on stream, and even though I've only just barely made it to the second island out of 4 after 12 hours, they were still super duper happy for me and stoked that I was still playing the game, just period. So yes,
that's
to
awesome.
your point, that's one of the positives there.
That's awesome. I'm also very envious that you own Sonic Frontiers. I do not have that. Sonic is my favorite video game character, and I'm going to have to get that for myself. My birthday and Christmas fall in the same 2-week span. So one of them 2 weeks, I'm getting Sonic Frontiers and experiencing it. But, that's an... Ooh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to cut that part out. That's awesome that you get that you have such a well-rounded audience. Can you dive into more about your community and all of that, and how that helps you get through playing these games whenever you dive into them?
Yes. So what helps is when we're talking about topics like maybe like TV or film or favorite food, or maybe even just like a fun anecdote that I have about my nostalgia for maybe some characters in the game, like my nostalgia for like Sonic, or even like my familiarity with other types of animated series, including the Sonic series too, that are the various Sonic animated series that have come out over the years. So things like that can kind of I can still play my game and somewhat focus, but I can also sort of not focus so much on how frustrating it is to trial and error so many things with the various platforming that happens in Sonic Frontiers, for example. So with other games too, especially if I'm having trouble making it past a certain point in the map, or a really aggressive boss battle, or maybe a confusing puzzle or dungeon, having a somewhat off-topic discussion, or even just waxing poetic about a fun anecdote with my audience is something that helps me stay playing the game and continuing to persevere through it, while also maintaining a positive front for folks to also replicate in the audience, and continue to kind of have those good vibes and supportive vibes as well in the chat.
That's dope. As somebody who's trying to build their Twitch presence, live streaming presence, that's hearing that and trying and just taking the mental notes down, and also being very happy that you guys, because I know I've heard so many not conflicting but different stories about how people's communities are on YouTube Live, Twitch, etc. So I'm very happy to hear your community sound so down to earth, sound so cool to interact with and everything like that. That's the beauty of all of this, being able to sit down and just play a game and have people to talk to and enjoy yourself. So I'm going to ask you, it's the end of the year. This is December as we're doing this. And so that's the end of the year. So I'm going to ask the most generic but important questions whenever video games is discussed. What are your top 5 video games of the year? Now, I will throw you this bone. It doesn't have to be brand new releases. It could be any video games you've played throughout 2022. But what are your top 5 that stood out to you?
Triangle Strategy, that is a retro-inspired tactical JRPG, and Trials of Mana, that came out in I think 2019, but it's a remake of the sequel to Secret of Mana from the Super Nintendo. Both were remade into 3D with 3D graphics. So Trials of Mana would be number 4, and Pokemon Legends Arceus, or I guess this can be in no particular order, but these are my various 5 games. Pokemon Legends Arceus, I feel like that was such a, it was that jolt of energy that the Pokemon series needed, that included so many, quality of life improvements to the player experience, that there were so many people that I interact with that appreciated everything that our Legends Arceus did for the franchise. And let's see, okay, so Trials of Mana, Triangle Strategy, Pokemon Legends Arceus, and let me see, what else did I play this year? Just trying to refresh my memory. I feel like this year's been so long. Okay, let me give you like 2 more titles. What else did I play this year? And I want to include, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and include, this is kind of a compilation, so I'm kind of cheating, the Capcom Fighting Collection.
Ooh.
And a highlight of that collection, it's called Red Earth. And it's an arcade game that was never ported from Japan. And it was like pretty much like kept in an arcade cabinet until now. And it's one of the most wonderful fighting games I've ever played. And it's so beautifully animated, like peak Capcom. I can't believe that this series has just now like hit like, you know, the public, you know, eye as outside of like the arcade community. And I'm a newbie to the arcade community, so my mind was blown away playing that game. So yes, I will definitely say Red Earth and the Capcom Fighting Collection. That was another one. And then I would say my last one for you. Oh, of course, Doom 2016. That is a game that I had the pleasure of experiencing because it was a donation request from someone who donated to a charity stream that I ran, and with Mad Max from Movies Madness and Entertainment. So I was really skeptical because I'm not a first-person shooter player up until that point. But Doom converted me. I was having a ball with that game, man. Doom is just, oh my god, yes, yes. And I need to play Doom Eternal, but that would be probably like my top 5 for you. Doom, Pokemon Legends Arceus, Capcom Fighting Collection, Red Earth, peak title there. And what else did I say? Oh, Trials of Mana 2019 and Triangle Strategy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, all of those games. The first 3, Triangle Strategy, Mana, and Pokemon Arceus, I have not played, but I've all known people who've played those games and have very high opinions of those. So definitely 3 good choices there. Capcom Fighting Game Collection. As a fighting game person and a Capcom person, that is something else I definitely need to cop because I own the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection and I love that one, and I need this one because this has the Darkstalkers games, which is something that I grew up on. And I, like you, I really want to play Red Earth because like those characters are some of like the most obscure Capcom characters, and everybody's like, this game is so, you know, dynamic because the single player is like an action game, but the versus is like a cool RPG fighting game, and I definitely want to try that out. Doom 2016, one of my all-time favorite games ever. The soundtrack is impeccable. The gameplay is fantastic. You definitely need to play Doom Eternal because that game just completely continues the upwards trajectory of it all. So yeah, that's a A-list list. In my opinion, it's an A-list list you brought up there. Something I want to, because I don't hear too many people ask this question whenever they're sitting down and talking about video games. They always keep it linear, but I'm gonna go adjacent for a second. Is there any video game, television show, movies, comic book, even soundtracks that you like really not only love, but you would, hey, you right there, you would go to a stranger and say they need to consume this right now? Is there anywhere, you know, any type of media like that you have?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I blast Virtua Fighter 2 soundtrack unapologetically on the bus. Every time I go out, I just need that jolt, again, like using this analogy of like a jolt of energy just to like get me motivated, even through the like most mundane activities, like going to the grocery store, or needing to go talk to Comcast about my crappy Xfinity internet, like things like that. I'm just like, I need to like, you know, be in a more like positive, self-confident state of mind, because right now I'm feeling like I'm barely awake. I don't want to like be outside. Everyone is outside doing the same things as I am. I don't want to, you know, be around people. I need the Virtua Fighter 2 soundtrack to just be like, no, this is your day. We're gonna seize the day. This is our time to shine. Like we're gonna attack these errands. So yes, that soundtrack just like gets me going, man.
I've been put on to some Virtua Fighter soundtracks, so I can already agree with you that they're bangers. And I'm a fighting game soundtrack person in general, so I that's kind of me as well. You know, fire up a Street Fighter soundtrack, a Tekken soundtrack, just put those in my ears and just completely let that guide my mood and give me the self-confidence. Any video game, TV shows, or movies that you know that gives you that same feeling, even though I'm of the mind those are more hit miss than hit, but I want to hear your thoughts on it. Do you have any of the video game movies or TV shows that you go up for?
So I'll do like a rose and thorn analogy. So a rose, in my opinion, would be the original Mortal Kombat movie from '95. I can watch that all day or a day. Put it on. I stop everything I'm doing to watch that, you know? Yeah, that's one movie that I don't feel the urge to be on my phone looking at something during like a low impact moment or whatever. I'm fully engaged in that movie for sure. And then a thorn, I would probably say this is kind of out of left field, but the Ratchet and Clank animated movie from a few years ago was a little disappointing for me because I love Ratchet and Clank. That was a title that one of the first titles I ever played on PS2 because I wanted to see what the creators of Spyro the Dragon went on to make, and I was blown away at how much I loved that game. But fast forward to through all the good times at Ratchet and Clank, we get to this movie, which is kind of a sleeper. Like, I felt really disengaged from the plot. I didn't feel like it was as high octane and as edgy humor, and as in, yeah, just it wasn't as engaging as the games were to me, in my opinion. And maybe that, to your point about video game movies being hit or miss, I think there is something that gets lost in translation when maybe Hollywood writers try to interpret the work of video game writers or video game of a team that works on creating this one project. So I don't know exactly what happens there. Maybe you're more educated on it than I am and can speak to it. But yes, I definitely know that there is something getting lost in translation there.
Well, first, David K, if you're watching this, the voice of Clank, Raya's good people. She says she liked the video games. So just kind of that was it's all good. But I definitely agree with you. I guess for me, just to use your analogy with the rose thorn, most recent, I'll go with my most recent Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the movie. That's a straight up rose for me. Like I said, as a big Sonic the Hedgehog fan, it hit all the buttons for me, and it had Jim Carrey in it, who I love, and that's that actor and just Sonic characters and everybody just feeling the energy and essence of Sonic really touched my soul. And a thorn would be Mortal Kombat 2021. I was very disappointed in that film. As a big Mortal Kombat fan, it was very it didn't do it for me. And it's weird because like the most recent games are very cinematic. They take the story that's been established for well over 30 years and they take it seriously. The action is great. The violence is what it needs to be for Mortal Kombat, and you would think a live action movie would be able to be as good if not better, but it just felt steps down in like almost every category. So yeah, some things just get. I heard an analogy from Gerard the Completionist when he was talking about the latest Resident Evil movie that came out, I think last year, where he said that sometimes these recent video game movies are from people who studied for the test but still failed. That they know the material, but when it came to implementing it, it wasn't what it needed to be. And I would say like a film that I would have thought would have been a thorn, but in my opinion was a rose, was Detective Pikachu, because it was like, okay, it's not, your traditional Pokemon story. It's based off of a spin-off game that's very, off beat. But if you know Pokemon, you can literally point out all of the things that they're getting right on down to the moves and what they do in the descriptions. And I'm like, okay, so you have people out there who get it, but then you have too many people who don't. So I guess we just need to get people who get it and make more of these.
That's a really good point. Yeah, Mortal Kombat, what was it, like 2021? That is another one that I kind of felt a little disappointed by as well. And I tried to find some redeeming qualities in it, like, what is his name? The antagonist character who got his eye, like, replaced by... Kano. Yes, so he was a great character for sure. I was salty that they did Kung Lao so dirty during the last third of the movie, because he's one of my favorite characters to play as in the series. So yes, I'm sad that we may not even see him anymore. And then some of the liberties with the character lore too, introducing Melina before you introduce Katana. Like, how does that make sense? Make it make sense.
Right, and then you kill her. You kill her off before we even get to that point. It's like, and then you had, like, they're trying to prevent the tournament, which doesn't make sense, because it's like Mortal Kombat has been very consistent that Liu Kang is going to show up and whoop ass, and it's like that whole concept is kind of moot, because like Liu Kang is literally there so you can win the tournament, and Shang Tsung shouldn't want to stop the tournament because Goro has been the champion for 100 years, and it fall apart very quickly. But we're not going to dwell on the negatives, because the final question I'm going to ask you I'm going to try to throw you a curveball, but you might hit a home run when I ask you this. But you are trapped on a desert island. Your cruise ship didn't crash. You had to make an emergency jump out of a plane. You're on a desert island. Who are the 3 video game characters that you absolutely want to be on that island with until you are rescued? Or if you decide to live there, because sometimes our society sucks and you just want to be by yourself with your 3 best friends.
Oh, dang. Okay, so... I'm going to need someone who can gather fish for us. I'm trying to think. Big the Cat is pretty good at fishing, so I'm going to pick Big the Cat.
That's actually a pretty good one for the practicality of it all. I can't argue with that.
And let's see. Now I kind of want to pick all Sonic characters. You know what? I'm going to curveball answer this one and pick all Sonic characters, especially since we're both Sonic fans. Okay, gonna need Knuckles. Yeah, for sure. Like, we're gonna need to build something to protect us from the elements, so housing is definitely gonna be an issue, so he can help me out there. Hopefully there's some palm trees or some sort of source of lumber on this deserted island. Otherwise, we're gonna be on rock gathering duty together, but yeah, okay. Knuckles, Big the Cat, and let me see who else. I think I am going to include I think I want to include Blaze the Cat. Yeah, I really like Blaze the Cat, and I think a reason for that is because she would be able to center everyone when we feel like we're just growing more and more feral against one another, because we're all just, on this small piece of body of sand in the middle of the ocean together forever. And yes, I want to have someone who is able to like pull everyone back into the present and focus on what needs to be done in order to survive. So I think Blaze the Cat is definitely the person for that.
Fact. So we got Raya stuck on an island with Big the Cat and his fishing pole to make sure everybody is fed. Knuckles with the strength to build and collect stuff and protect you guys from wildlife. Can't forget that, because who knows what's going to be on that island. And you got Blaze the Cat, who can center everybody with the calmness and everything. And then, yeah, basically, you guys are good. And then with her fire powers as well, she can write like SOS in the sand. So maybe a helicopter or a plane can see you guys and whatnot. Maybe burn some bush so Knuckles can glide and, survey the air. Yeah, that works. That works. But You know,
I need to know your answers now. I can't end the interview without asking you the same question.
Ooh, oh man. Okay, so
Hot seat.
I'm not gonna cop your swag and go for all Sonic characters, but I will say, man, see, I like to go super practical and basically get myself off that island as quickly as possible. So if my answers are boring, I apologize. But I would go with Tails. If I have to pick one Sonic character, it would be Tails, because he can invent stuff. He can like make, oh, I'm gonna make a transceiver out of all of this bark and sand, and I'm not gonna question it because he's Tails and he's a genius. Then I would probably get my boy Nathan Drake, because you know he can like, man, wait, cute Tails, this island might have treasure, and we can go on an adventure and you know, look for some treasure and stuff like that. Maybe Lara Croft, but hers tend to be like a little bit too perilous. Like with Drake, it's like, oh man, a treasure, and we might see a zombie. But with Lara Croft, it's like you will see zombies and gods and stuff like that, because oh man, this is actually I'm already trying to get off the island. I don't need to deal with all of that. And the third person I would probably get would probably be who could I possibly get for the third? I know exactly who I would get for the third. Tifa from Final Fantasy VII. Why? Because for the same reason you would pick Blaze, for the moral support, keeping everybody grounded and stuff like that. And you know, she's awesome. She can just whoop everybody's butt. So if we run into some more trouble, you know, she's whooping everybody's butt and protecting us. So Tails, Nathan Drake, and Tifa. Those are my three. And yeah, I think we'd be good. And Tifa, and I think Tifa has some culinary skills she can teach us, so we can fend for ourselves and whatnot. If not, Tails probably came up with a machine to get the fish and stuff. So, you know.
That is a very solid list. I am very impressed.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, more importantly, for kicking it with me for this inaugural voyage of Q's tentatively titled video games show. I very much thank you, Raya, for accepting the invitation. I hope you guys watching us got a lot of a great understanding of Raya and who she is and what type of content, because in my opinion, she's dope, and you guys should have that opinion now as well. But before we go, Raya, let them know who you is, what you do's, and where they can find you as well.
Yeah, so pretty much Glimmering Harpy, I standardized my my tags, so y'all can find me on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and I'm also on Discord too. So links are all on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Raya with 4 A's, or just type in Glimmering Harpy now that we have those awesome handles from YouTube. So yes, I hope I'm easier to find that way. But yes, come through for awesome gaming, just live streams, and occasional TV film talk on my show, The Glimmercast, with a myriad of awesome hosts and co-hosts. And yeah, that's about it.
Dope. Do you have any upcoming projects and whatnot, or do you want to promote any continuing projects you're working on right now?
That's pretty much it. I am kind of a let's see what happens today type of person. So yes. That's
the best type of way to be. And in any case, this has been your boy QuaMonstarG. That has been Raya, the Glimmering Harpy. And thank you guys for watching Q's tentatively titled video games show. And then we will see y'all later. Say peace. Peace.